Welcome to the GPPD podcast. It's your girl, Whitney, and it's been a while since I've been here, so you're going to help me out.
Okay,
You're a special guest, you know.
We can do that.
It's my first time meeting you in person.
Mm-hmm.
I have seen your name on many things, but just introduce yourself.
Many things? Oh,
you know, introduce yourself to us. Who are you?
Well, I am Robert Pollard. I have been working here at the PD for about, it'll be 15 years in August.
15 years?
Yeah.
Okay, see, now we got a lot of stuff to get into. Okay, now before we do that, we do want to take a pause and just make sure that everyone knows to check out grandprairiepolice.org so we can check out, see what's going on with our department.
There you go.
Openings, test dates. You know, we always have some things going on with detention and dispatch. Shout out to them.
Always need help.
We always need help.
Yes.
So for those interested, please. And of course, hey, we got to have the officers come out too. So if you feel like this is for you, we're going to just chill out with Robert here today and just see what's going down.
Kick back, have some fun.
Yes, and then we'll have other people to join because of you.
Okay, I like it.
Yeah, okay. Well, let's get in. Okay, 15 years. Of course, we got to go all the way back.
Oh, man.
Like Little Rob. And I'm saying Little Rob. I don't know. Maybe you had a name. You don't even have to say disclose any information.
I'm not going to talk about that.
But the Little Rob, how did we, what's the origin story, if you will?
Well, honestly, if you ask my mom, she would say when I was about 6 years old, I had a cop motorcycle. I used to ride around the house everywhere. It was motorized, so I had a good little time. I had my shades on.
The whole thing?
Everything. She's like, oh, I knew he was going to be a cop ever since that.
What?
But, I mean, that kind of got stuck in my head, I guess. So that might be a little part of it.
Wow, that's cool. Now, what about, family-wise? Were there, law enforcement, military, things like that?
No, actually, my dad played in the NFL for 11 years. Yeah.
Okay, see, that's going to be our segue into sports.
There you go.
Okay, what was that experience like?
Well,
as a child,
he played for the Saints. He played from 71 to 81. I was actually born in 81, so I really didn't get to be around it a lot.
Okay.
But it was a big influence on me. I looked up to him, so I played football as well because of him. So
okay,
that was fun.
Now, when did football start for you? At what age?
I started at the YMCA. My dad was actually. He was the director at the local YMCA for many years. So I started playing sports there. I started with flag football when I was about 5 and just played every year, played all the sports. And just kind of, after a while narrowed it down. Wasn't too fond of baseball because it took too long.
Oh, it is. Yeah.
Basketball. So football and basketball were the two sports I stayed with mostly.
You said the local YMCA. What area? Are you from here?
No, I'm from Beaumont.
What?
Beaumont, Texas.
Okay, Beaumont.
Yeah.
Look at shout out to Beaumont. I'm not from there, but hey.
409.
Yeah, okay. You got the zip code and everything. You got the area code. Let's do it. Okay. Okay, so you're doing football. Okay. Family dynamics, is it just you? Do you have siblings?
There was me and my dad and my mom. I had a half-brother, half-sister. They, came over every now and then. And I had a younger brother who's 8 years younger than I am.
Wow, that's a gap.
Yeah, there's a little bit of a gap. So,
did you help with him? I mean, just because of that gap?
I tried.
Okay.
I tried. I feel like he looked up to me, so he tried to do a lot of the stuff I did. He got annoying a lot of times, as little brothers do.
Yeah, of course.
But, it was all love, so I liked him around.
Okay. Now, was there a certain age that you realized that, as far as sports, this is something that, you really, gifted in?
I want to say probably high school. I really, really loved basketball. And like I said, my dad played football, so that's something I wanted to do also. So I did both of those. But at the end of my high school career, I realized I wasn't quite tall enough to play. I like to play center, power forward, and I'm 6'3", so gotta be a little bit taller.
Which is crazy to me because that still is so tall.
Yeah, but there were people who were taller than me in my on my team, so I couldn't hang with them for too long. So
What?
decided to stick with football.
Okay. 6'3" is just, okay. All right. Now, with that, like, was your dad really, I guess, like, mentoring you through all of that too and helping and showing you? Was it more so he wanted you to, like, develop into your own and not push down on you?
He encouraged me to play sports, but he was never like, come over here and do this particular thing.
Okay.
He played defensive end, so I decided I was going to do that. And that's not something he pressured me to do. He was more like, okay, if that's what you're going to do, great. Then, I'll give you some tips, some hints, some things to go along with it. So
okay, you're not like up all night running drills.
Oh,
and
no,
he's like, this is what you're supposed to do, and I'm the okay.
Not running the stands when I was 10 years old. None of that stuff. No.
Because it's like you have the inside, right? I mean, you have a person that can guide you the entire way. Yeah.
But he was, he's real laid back about everything, and like I said, it just things here and there. It wasn't like like nowadays where you have to do it 24/7. It wasn't really like that. So.
Yeah. What was the balance like for you with being an athlete and just being, in school and just throughout your family or even other things that you all did as a family? How did you balance those?
It wasn't really too hard. Like I said, sports nowadays is 24/7, whether you're in season, out of season, whatever. When I played, it was more, while we're in season, we're doing this, and then, off season is off season. So I had a lot of family time. Sports was sports, but I did that on the side, and, whenever I went out with my friends or whatever, but it wasn't too bad at all.
Okay. Now, at this point, had anything related to law enforcement or maybe just, protection, justice, any of that at that point? Nothing came up?
No.
Okay.
It was like just buried back there somewhere, I guess.
Okay.
But I wasn't even thinking along that. I was all about football.
Yeah. Okay. So now we're high school. Tell me the transition between high school and now college.
Oh man, when you go from high school and you're the guy, you're one of the best players on the team and all that stuff, everybody looking up to you, and then you go to college and it's like you start completely over. Nobody knows who you are. You're at the bottom of the food chain. And I went to TCU, and we had a coach when I was there named Francione, and he's a different type of dude.
Different.
Not necessarily in a good way. Okay. He was very intense.
Okay.
But it got to the point where it was kind of like, don't really like this guy that much. There was one point where, as a freshman, I ran into the quarterback, and that was a no-no back in the day. You can't touch the quarterback. Quarterbacks are important. So I ran into the quarterback, kind of hurt his hand a little bit, and Fran got mad, called me over there, called my D-line coach over there, and he was like, you see this guy right here? Do you want him to lose his job? And I'm like, no, I don't want him to lose his job. He's like, don't do that again. So he had that kind of dynamic.
Yeah.
And it was, after a while, it kind of got, I want to say, it wasn't great for morale all around.
Clearly, man.
But fortunately for us, he kind of left. He left after my sophomore year. He left. He actually told us he wasn't leaving, and then the next day he left.
What? Okay,
yeah,
well.
kind of guy he was.
Different. You did say different.
Yeah.
Okay.
But Coach Gary Patterson, he was our defensive coordinator at the time. He took over. And it was great after that, my junior, senior year, because he was a defensive coach.
Well, there you go.
So when defense did great, it was a great day. When offense did great, it wasn't that great. But, it was fun. It was real nice to have somebody who understood the game like he did.
Mm-hmm. Now, would your dad come to games and everything?
Yeah, they tried to come to every single. I think they came to every game that we had at home throughout the 4 years I was there. So it was really nice.
What was that like? I guess just bond wise with your dad to now be playing football. It's just I
mean, he was my dad, so it's not like it was anything different. Mm-hmm. I mean, we had a bond, and it was. Growing up, it wasn't like he was a bad dad, because he wasn't. He was a great dad. But as a teenager, you always kind of feel like, your parents are against you, blah, 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 and all that stuff.
I'm grown.
So I had to go through that. But when I got to college, I feel like my relationship with my dad really grew because I matter of fact, went back to him after month or so, him and my mom, and I was like, I appreciate what y'all did for me because I understand it now that I'm on my own, so to speak. Yeah, it was great with him. He always encouraged me. Like I said, gave me tips and things like that. But we didn't have any issues, especially after college. Like it was all good.
Yeah. Do you can you remember some of the specific tips that helped you or gave you a little bit more of an advantage compared to maybe other people that don't have, the dad there that played?
Yeah, maybe like more technique stuff.
Okay.
How to do certain things as far as, getting around blockers and things like that. One thing that we really didn't talk about was the business aspect of it. And that was probably the hardest thing to come to grips with as far as not necessarily college ball, but beyond that, like NFL.
Yeah. Tell us about that, yeah.
I didn't get drafted, but I was able to sign free agent to the San Diego Chargers.
Oh, cool.
In 2004. And went there. Fortunately, I knew a guy there named LaDainian Tomlinson who played at me with TCU.
How cool.
So that was nice. But yeah, the business aspect of the NFL is insane. I mean, it's eat or be eaten. It really is. Like any business would be. I mean, it's a sport, but there's so many other things that go into it, and it's politics and all that stuff. And I wish I knew more about that when I was, my young 20s as opposed to now.
Who was helping you, navigate all of that? Are you, did you hire somebody? Are you just doing it on your own? Did you have a friend? What is
I had an agent.
Okay.
He really wasn't there step by step. But I really had to learn it on my own. Me and my wife, I just got married in 2004 also. So we really navigating it on our own. I mean, we had help from, LaDainian and his wife, but we had to figure it out.
Wow.
And it was a landscape, let me tell you. It was rough.
That's mind-boggling to me because in my head I always imagine okay, someone's going to be assigned to you and then this is the track that we go and it's like a whole, follow the spreadsheet,
Not
like
at all.
A, B, C, D. No.
Not at all.
Man.
And going from Texas to California was really a difference too. Just let's start with money-wise.
Yeah.
I mean, it's so much more expensive in California than it is in Texas. Away from family, all our family's here in Texas. We're in a whole different state. So we were really all we had.
And when you sign, you sign, they don't once you sign, they don't just take over that process. You're still, it's like you're just managing everything still yourself though, even though you've signed.
Yeah. I mean, it's not like.
And I'm so curious about it. That's why I'm asking because it's just I don't know how this works.
Yeah,
we see the outside, but we don't know.
Yeah, the big time guys who make all the money and everybody takes care of things for them. That's a top percentage of players. That's not everybody else. Everybody else's experience is completely different or can be completely different. Like I said, my agent wasn't really around. My agent was in Texas, and I really didn't talk to him a whole lot. So. He was basically like, if anything comes up, let me know. If not, pay me at the end of the year.
What?
I mean, it was a
Wow.
business.
Yeah,
it was our business. But like I said, we got through. We learned. We asked, and we made friends who helped us out, and taught us the ropes and things like that. So we were able to navigate. We were fortunate. God put people in our lives to help us get from point A to point B. So,
amen. His grace is sufficient because without,
lost.
At all. I don't even want to know where I would be without God's grace. I just want to say that. Okay.
I understand completely.
Yeah. Man, what was it like now going from TCU then? Hey, I'm in the NFL. Was that ever a point of thinking in your mind I'm here? What do I do next? Or I'm just going to live in the moment? Is it now you're thinking ahead? Next step?
It was kind of all of that. I mean, you kind of look up and you're like, wow, this is the big leagues. And all these people you see on TV are right next to you. And there are so many experiences that I had, good and bad. as far as like being a rookie, where they were hazing us and doing all these crazy things.
What does that look like? Like what kind of silly things, or like no, dangerous?
A lot of stuff was silly. It wasn't dangerous. Like we were doing like 2-a-days once, and some of the some of the older guys, some of the vets took our clothes. The rookies' clothes on the D line, and they threw them in the jacuzzi.
Oh.
So we had to figure that out like 20 minutes before practice.
What did y'all? How did you figure that out?
Well, I mean, we our equipment people handled it. They dried the stuff off for us and stuff. But I mean, those type of things, they were normal.
Yeah.
And if you put up a fuss about it, like one of the rookies did, then they would tend to mess with that person more. So we just some of us just took it all in stride. We had fun with it. Ha ha ha.
Yeah.
Cool.
Not trying to file a complaint, make reports.
Yeah, and they left it alone. They left us alone. The other guy who thought he was a big shot rookie, he got drafted really high. So he was like, I can't deal with all this.
Oh, no.
Y'all messing around with me. So they kept picking on him. And we were like, all right, Igor, do your thing, man.
You get the target. Hey, that helped y'all out.
It did.
Yeah.
It did.
Thank
but,
you.
After a while, going through the year, just bonding with those guys, going through all the things we went through, it became a family. It really did. So that was fun.
Yeah, that's cool. Like, did anybody know your backstory, like, and then your dad? Or did you want to keep that to yourself and not just...
There were some people who knew. Obviously, the coaching staff and stuff, the history and all that stuff. But no, I didn't really discuss it. What I did do was when people asked me about, football and stuff, like anytime any people ask me now, did you ever play football? I was like, yeah, I did. But I don't ever go past that.
Yeah.
Like, if you want more detail, then you can ask more detail.
Right.
But I don't volunteer that information. I will say that my dad played. My dad played in the NFL 11 years. I always say that. I always throw my dad out there. Shout out to my dad, Bob Pollard. Love you, man.
Okay. Get the shout in. Yes, go ahead. I love this. Yes.
But yeah, I don't. I try not to. He taught me to be humble.
Yes.
So I just try to live in that, and I'm not a bragger. I'm not a guy who does that kind of stuff. So
yes. Humility. We just learned another nugget. You're going to give us a lot of nuggets today. Humility. We're lacking that. We need more.
It's good to have.
Yeah.
Every now and then. Yeah.
For sure. Now, how long were you with the Chargers?
I was with the Chargers for, I went through the first year with them, 04, and then I got through training camp in 05, but I got cut. I ended up sitting out like maybe 2 months, and then I think around November or so, maybe 2 or 3 months, and then November or so, I went and signed with Seattle, the Seahawks. And I was there for about 1.5 years. Okay. And ended up hurting my knee, actually. I tore my ACL. And my first game, I actually got to play. I tore my ACL.
Really?
Yeah.
The first game?
Yeah, it was a game in December against the 49ers, I want to say. And I actually got a tackle on Frank Gore, and I was doing all this. I was so excited to be out there. One particular play, I was taking on a double team, and I kind of tried to break it. I kneeled down to break it, and I felt something in my knee pop, but I kept going. I was like, I'll be all right. It's no big deal. Got through the game, everything, and then I went out to dinner with my wife, and my knee just ballooned. It swelled up really big. And I was like, what is this? Called the trainers, did an MRI. They were like, your ACL's torn.
How devastating.
Yeah, it sucked to hear that because, like I said, first game, I was excited. I just got in the rotation, active roster, and then that happened. So, and then that's when the business aspect kicks in. Yeah. It's like, can you play on this leg? And I was like, I don't know, maybe. And then probably 2 weeks later, I ended up getting let go.
How does that work? Is it more so they're trying to see, I don't say that they don't care about you, but are they trying to see, okay, can he really be beneficial to us? We're going to try to stick with him. What is it?
That's exactly what it is. Like I said, it's a business. If one cog is broken, then they just replace it with another cog. That's the business of the game. Yeah. it's nothing personal.
Yeah.
It's hard. You have to learn that going in. Like a lot of the stuff they do is not personal. It's all business. So that's one of those welcome to the NFL, grow up quick moments.
How did you and your wife deal with that though? Just as husband and wife, you're transitioning, we're celebrating. It's just all these changes.
Yeah, it was rough. Like I said, fortunately we had people around us who helped us out because there was a point where we didn't have anywhere to go, and a couple of friends of ours took us, and y'all could stay with us for a few months while y'all get everything situated. We ended up moving back to Texas, and I did rehab for that whole year, 2007, and actually ended up, I don't know how this happened, only God, but I ended up with the Dallas Desperados, which was an arena team back in 2000s, and I played a year with them.
Okay.
But then after the 2008 season, that whole league folded. So back to square one again. But yeah, it's up and down ride. It's a roller coaster,
Now, when you're playing for the NFL, are they covering all? I'm in my head, I'm thinking medical now, like expenses. Are they paying for all of those things, or helping you, or navigate this doctor? Talk to.
Well, we had to actually get a lawyer so that they could cover the expenses of that injury because they were saying, okay, well, you're saying you're okay, so we're not liable anymore for what happened to you, type of thing. Then we ended up getting a lawyer, and we were fortunate enough for them to cover the cost of rehab and all that stuff.
Good. Workplace injury. I mean,
you would think, but
it was a game. Like it's not like you're just you're literally.
But it's all business. It's all paperwork, and like for somebody who's young and in their 20s and don't really understand, how contracts and things work. Yeah. And like I said, my agent wasn't there to really explain anything, so we kind of had to figure it out. And like I said, we were fortunate to have that, and get that done to come through without having to pay all those expenses.
Yeah. By the time you were with the Dallas Desperados, how old were you at that time?
I think I was 20. Is that 26, maybe? Because I spent about 3.5-4 years in the league between the two teams. Actually, 3 years between the two teams, and then I was with the Desperados for that year, so about 26.
Oh, wow, yeah. So you have to hurry up and just pick up things quick.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a lot of it feels like a lot of life happened right in those times.
It was.
Oh, now I'm thinking about your parents. What's going on with mom and dad during that time with the transitions and the movement, then being injured.
Yeah. They were there. They were supportive. We were kids. We were proud. So we really didn't ask for their help. We tried to do it all on our own. Yeah. And we were, like I said, we were fortunate to manage it. Yeah. But we knew we had them in the background if we needed them as support. And they were willing to help, which was great. Yeah. But fortunately, like you said, God's grace is sufficient.
Hey, grace sufficient every time.
We made it through.
Yeah. Oh, awesome. Now, I got to bring up law enforcement.
Okay.
At this point of your life, now we're in the 20s, about to approach 30.
Yeah.
Law enforcement, is that now making an appearance or no? It's still off?
It's still not. It's still not. I actually ended up doing a part-time job for a friend of mine I knew from college. She was director of a after-school program for kids who were how do I say this? They were not as well off as most of us, and they were minorities. So that was in Fort Worth. Did that for about a year, and it was, like I said, it was part-time. This was after I got done recovery and all that stuff. So that was great. I enjoyed helping the kids, and I was the academic tutor.
Okay, academic tutor.
No
I was gonna say,
experience
okay, so we can get.
whatsoever.
My husband and I got 4 kids. We can sign up for some lessons.
Oh, no,
Okay.
no. Not coming this way,
Okay,
no.
no, okay.
No experience.
Just wanted to throw that out there. You can do
Right.
some tutoring and hey,
No,
okay.
I'm not going to do that. But I was able to do that for them, help them out and all that stuff. And it was great. I enjoyed it. I made some connections there as far as, the kids. But I realized really quickly that I needed to get a job. And also realized that I wasn't really qualified to do anything because I had a degree for psychology, but it was just, my bachelor's degree.
Yeah.
So it's not like I could have went into anything substantial from
Yeah.
it. So I ended up going downtown Fort Worth. There's a security team that covers downtown Fort Worth for the Bass family. And I worked in that security team for a little while, about 1.5 years, I think. And it was fun. That was like, I guess you could say that was kind of breaking into law enforcement.
Yeah.
We patrolled downtown, covered everything,
Okay.
made sure all the shops were safe, and make sure nobody was doing anything illegal.
Yeah.
Blah blah blah. I ended up going to the residence program. Which was actually the homes of the Basses, and making sure those were secure, and doing that, and that was great too. But there was a point where my son was born. This was like in 2009.
Oh.
And he was about 6 weeks old. My wife wasn't feeling too good that day, so I called into work, and I'm like, "Hey, I can't come in today. My wife's not feeling too good. I got a six-week old here. I can't come in today."
Yeah.
And where it really turned for me was they were like, "Okay, well, you have to come in, or else we're gonna write you up."
What?
Yeah, that was what they told me on the phone. So I was like, I'm sorry, what you saying I can't take care of my family?
Yes, yeah.
So it got to a point with that job where I realized it was about the job before anything else.
Yeah.
And I was like, I can't stay here.
Yeah.
Because, this is an issue. Now, fortunately, in that situation, my mother-in-law was close, so she was able to stay with my wife and my son. But after that, I was like, I got to find another job.
Yeah.
Because I can't do this. They obviously don't care about me or my family. And that's when I looked into law enforcement. And since I lived in Grand Prairie, I figured I might as well start in Grand Prairie.
There you go.
Yeah.
Okay, now we did the whole dovetail.
Yep.
Now we're with law enforcement. Okay, and Grand Prairie because you were here.
Yes.
Okay, natural fit. But wow, I'm thinking in my head just that crucifix of family, the value, and being told that. Like, what's the trajectory? Had you just ignored that, but you're clearly not that type of husband or father, so that just showed your value system.
Yeah, and that's one of the things I love about Grand Prairie. The PD here is obviously about family. If you have any family issues I've ever had here, they're like, do what you got to do, take care of your family, and that's one of the things I really appreciated about this department.
Yeah.
Is they put family first.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that. And shout out wife, shout out baby. Well, now he's not baby or, older. So, yeah, shout out to the family.
Shout out Janelle, Jalen, Brooklyn. Love y'all.
Yes, get the shout outs in. Okay, so, and I got my little notes. I'm just making sure I don't miss things, okay?
Okay.
So now we're at Grand Prairie. So what was that like? You're applying and personal history statement? Like, did you do a ride out? Like,
so I did do a ride out. I actually did a ride out with one of our officers, Greg Parker. That was a very interesting day. Don't really have any details, but no, it was great. And so from there, I was like, okay, I can see myself doing this. Applied everything, did the testing. Joanna Briggs, who was an officer, back then. She came out and she talked to me and my wife about just the different aspects of police work and, how dangerous it could be and, how you got to watch your bag now on and all this stuff. So it was a very interesting experience. But ultimately, we decided, yeah, we can go ahead and do it. One thing my wife did say, though, was if you ever get on at the PD, you are not doing SWAT.
Come on, boundaries.
And
Come
I
on,
was like,
wife.
okay, I get that. And they've tried to ask me, about SWAT every now and then. And I'm
Right.
like, my wife said no, so I can't do that.
Yeah. No, thank you. Talk to her. No. Awesome. Okay. Now, were you already thinking at that time where you would end up, maybe like interest wise, or were you just focused on patrol?
Yeah. Actually, when I did my oral board with everybody, one of the things I mentioned was being an SRO. And it was because of my experience with the youth that I had before, as far as helping them out and everything like that. I figured that would be a good use of my skills, and it's something that I really enjoyed doing. So,
Like leaving the deposit for the next generation.
Right.
Yeah.
right.
Oh, that's cool. How long did you have to do patrol?
I was doing patrol for about 5 years. I think I did patrol.
Really? What
Yeah.
was that like? He had to breathe in everything. Okay.
Everything. I mean, anything you could think of can happen on patrol. It's good stuff. It's bad stuff. It's crazy stuff. I don't believe this type of thing. I mean, actually, when I first came on, I want to say it was 2011. I had just been let go probably a few weeks before, and that's when the murder suicide happened at the roller rink. So that was one of my first major calls that I went to by myself, and it was rough. Just seeing that kind of stuff going on there. And I remember years later after that going to a party at that same location, and I was like, I can't be in here.
Yeah.
And it was traumatizing. It really was to be back at that place where you saw so much,
Yes.
stuff go on. But you get over it, therapy, things like that.
Shout out to therapy,
Shout out to
self-care.
therapy. Hey, it's important. If you need it, you do it. It's not
Please.
something to play around with. If you need help, get help.
Yeah.
Seriously. But yeah, it's been an experience. I mean, met all kind of people, all kind of friends. Good, bad, indifferent.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's life. That's just how it is. I mean, it's a microcosm of life here.
Were there ever moments where football showed up in your patrol experience?
There was one particular experience that I remember very vividly. I was coming back on from lunch during the night shift, and I went back to my area, and there happened to be a guy who was running from, I don't even remember who he was running from. I was down the block, and I saw him running towards me. So I got out of the car, ran at him. He jumped the fence, went to somebody's backyard, and he didn't know where to go, and I ended up tackling him.
Come on.
In great form, mind you. Great football form. I was ready for that tackle.
Man, we need the tape.
I took him down. Just simple things like that that kind of go into it.
Yeah.
But I got to say, it was fun tackling him. But we got it all under control, and everybody went their separate ways and did what we had to do. But
Wow.
Yeah.
Look at that. He said, thank you so much. I needed that. Bring it back some. Wow. Okay. Now, as an SRO, what is that like? And help for those that don't know, what is an SRO?
School resource officer. Okay. So we're police officers. We do work for the city, so we're actual police. We're not campus security.
Misconception.
Right,
Thank you for the clarification.
I always believe that we're not security. We're police officers. But we work in the school just to make sure, with everything that's going on as far as things that have happened in schools and security issues like that. We're there to make sure that no crime happens. And so we just happen to be housed in a school. We do the same thing as any other police officer would.
Now, it seems like just because of the climate, it seems that it would feel more intense inside of a school. But what is it like for you when you're there at the school?
It depends on the school, honestly. I've been to several schools. I started at Jackson Middle School, where there's I want to say 1,100 kids.
Whoa.
And it was just, one SRO. I moved around. I've been to Dubisky. There's a lot of kids there too. But the atmosphere is different. Middle school, high school, Right now I'm at Johnson DAEP, which is the alternative
Yeah.
school. So it just depends on where you are. For the most part, the kids at DAEP come in, do what they have to do, and go out. You have some kids who give you a hard time every now and then, but I mean that's everywhere.
Yeah.
Whether I'm on patrol or wherever.
What are some things like happening in schools that I would say that you would tell us about that people don't really think about when we think about what's happening inside the school from your perspective as an officer?
There's a little bit of everything. I mean, it's kind of scary to say that, I guess you could say. But I mean, weapons, drugs, things like that, those things happen in the school. I've seen them. And just like on patrol, you deal with those things accordingly. There's really nothing that I could pinpoint to say this is specifically something that nobody would think about. But it's basically like having a little town. I think Wesley Jackson said that before. It's like having a little town, and you're the sheriff of that town.
Yeah.
And, everything that can happen, hopefully won't happen.
Right.
But it's a possibility.
Right. When they're interacting with you, do you come across as like the cool? Are you the cool officer? Like, what is it?
I
like,
really
oh, no,
don't know. I try to give everybody respect.
Right.
Regardless of what they've done to get there or how they got there. I try to be respectful to everybody unless they give me a reason not to be. So I think that comes off. I think everybody understands that. And for the most part, I get respect back.
Yeah.
Like I said, there have been kids that have come through there that I know their names. They know who I am. We have a good relationship. There are kids who come through there who I know their name for not so good reasons. And they give us a hard time all the time. But those are things you deal with.
Yeah, yeah. Have there been moments where children, they don't feel comfortable talking to their teachers, so they just come directly to you? Like, what does that process look like?
For the most part, we do have a counselor on campus. And for the most part, when kids have issues, they talk to the counselor. I have had kids ask me some questions about different things, court, whatever.
Yeah.
That they've asked me about. And, like I said, that happens every now and then.
Yeah.
But for the most part, thankfully, they talk to the counselor.
Yeah. Now, I'm going to bring up active shooter type things because drills. I never grew up having any type of lockdown situation. It would be mostly fire drills,
Right.
tornadoes.
Yeah.
That was pretty much it. So the whole
Shelter in
active
place
shooter,
type
I was like,
stuff.
yeah, shelter in place. And when I think about that now and covering your head, like, if it's a tornado,
Yeah, you have to be in a pretty
right?
centralized room
I
with
don't
nothing
think it's
going
gonna
on.
help. Yeah, but what is that like for you, just considering the climate when we're thinking about school safety as the officer there?
It's it's something that we train for constantly. We're always doing active shooter, going through different scenarios, things like that. Because if you don't train yourself to go through those situations, more than likely you'll freeze because you don't know what to do. So the SROs train on that stuff constantly. That's during school, out of school, during the summertime is when we get a lot of our training on that. And it's one of those things that you have to think about, constantly run through, just to make sure, this scenario, that scenario, this person's here, what would happen if somebody did this, and how you respond to that. I mean, it's all kind of different things that could happen, and you just have to be open and think about those type of things just in case.
Yeah. Do SROs have to go to specialized training for things like that involving schools? Or is there something, I'm just thinking of when people have conferences, but it's a particular group like SROs.
Right.
Is that like that for you all?
Yeah. We do, like I said, we do a lot of that training during the summertime, specifically for active shooter situations and things like that. So.
Now, summertime, because you're an SRO, does that mean you get a break?
No, it does not.
Okay.
No, it doesn't. We still work. I mean, I'm still a police officer,
Yeah.
regardless. I mean, we can take off like any officer can. Take off, and have family time, do vacations, whatever. But we're still working.
Okay.
I mean, we're covering things. We do a sports camp that we do, midnight basketball. We have explorers. All these different groups that we do are things that we do that are in the scope of SRO, even in the summertime. So it's not like we're just sitting around twiddling our thumbs.
Right.
We're always doing something.
Okay. Do other people think that about y'all? I'm just asking questions.
They might. That's what they want to think, that, we don't do anything. I would invite you to come be an SRO and see how much we actually do.
There you go.
But it seems like a lot of people stay away from it because they don't want to deal with kids. So, I mean, if you think we don't do anything, why aren't you here?
Hey, there we go.
That's
mic
what
drop.
I'm saying.
Yeah, mic drop. Now, how long have you been in SRO?
I've been in SRO for 10 years now.
10, okay. Oh, yeah, because you said 5 with patrol. Wow. Do you feel like you're going to remain SRO? Or do you have other interests?
I do. I enjoy it. Like I said, that's one of the main things that I talked about when I came in, and I enjoy it. Like I said, a lot of the people that are SROs, I knew them on patrol.
Yeah.
So we have camaraderie, and we get along very well. Even though we're at our own places, I feel like we're a really great team.
Do y'all get together? In my head, it's like a whole social hour, but just for the SROs and your families, is it like that or?
No, we do things here and there.
Okay.
A lot of it is PD related, but some things we do. Shout out to Keisha Dye for her TD Foundation. She does a lot of things for youth and families. So we do things through her organization as well that bring us together. But it's good stuff.
Yeah, awesome. Now, when people are either listening or even watching this, if someone is strongly interested in law enforcement but would rather just do what you do and be an SRO, what would you tell them?
We actually, as far as I know, have to, when we come on, and this was for me, I don't know if we still do it this way or not, but it's pretty much automatic for 2 years on patrol. You can do specialized units. There are, some things that you can move to earlier. But we're a specialized unit, so you have to at least work patrol first, and then you can apply to be an SRO. And you have to apply just like any other job.
Yeah.
Resume, this is why I think I would fit.
Yeah.
All that stuff. You have to go do a whole nother board meeting and things like that. But yeah, if you're interested, do it.
If someone, or if you could tell someone that is kind of teetering on, I guess, the specialization, would there be a reason for them not to be an SRO? If you are like this or whatever, what would you say?
Definitely if you don't like kids, do not be an SRO. There is no reason for you to be a school resource officer. Means you're dealing with kids.
Yes.
There are also parents that you have to deal with. And a lot of times you see how a kid's acting and you don't understand it until you meet the parents.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, I understand
This
now.
makes sense now.
But you have to deal with people. We're always dealing with people. It's not like on patrol is different because you're in your car a lot of times.
Yeah.
You go to a call, you deal with people, and then you're back in your car. With being an SRO, it's constantly being around people, dealing with people, different things, whether they're having problems or not. It's always being in the mix of people. So you have to be comfortable with being around people all the time.
Okay, so if you don't like people, just don't do this.
You shouldn't even be a police officer if you don't like people.
There
but
you go.
Specifically an SRO, if you don't like being around people, then that's not for you.
Now, what if somebody wants to be in the NFL and they just came across our random, they just, I'm going to listen to this podcast from the police, but I want to be in the NFL. How can I do that?
Oh, man. That process has gotten so much more complicated now. You have to really work hard at it. Great grades, sports constantly, whatever your specialization is, you have to do that thing specifically 24/7. because that's a job now.
Yeah.
But there's really no trick to it. It's just about consistency, opportunity, and things like that. So it's the luck of the draw. I was fortunate to go, and my dad went, like I said before. So we were just blessed to be able to do that. Hopefully, nobody has the experience I had where they had to, leave the NFL for an injury. But yeah, there's no trick to it. It's just about dedication and hard work.
Yeah. Do any of the students know that you play in the NFL?
Every now and then I'll get a kid that comes up to me.
Looking at you like, oh, he looks like he was an athlete.
Yeah, I get kids like the other week. One of the students was like, "Did you play in the NFL?" Yes.
And they take out their phone. Let me.
Yeah, I looked you up. I'm like, how do you know my name? How do you know? I know you know my last name. How do you know the rest of it?
Yeah.
But I mean, it's out there. So I'm not ashamed of it. I'm actually very proud of it. I don't mind the question. It actually is funny to me. People ask me that because it just reminds me of what I used to do.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you miss it?
I do. I miss the team aspect of it, as far as being around a bunch of guys, having a similar experience, going through that stuff. I mean, a lot of the stuff is still in place here. But sports are something that people come together to have fun together. I do still play basketball, even though I'm not tall enough to play what I wanted to play. But I do have a group of guys I get with. Byron is one of them.
Okay.
And we play on Saturdays every now and then, and just kind of chop it up. Get a little cardio in.
Get your cardio. Okay. Yeah.
I need that because I need cardio.
Yeah.
Cardio's good. But yeah, it's one of those things.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. This has been a nice session. I feel like this is a nice podcast. I feel like we're going to get a lot of compliments because
I hope so.
All the things. This is very positive, real. It's and
you get to know people. A lot of people, look at you and they don't really know who you are.
Yeah.
Because I've been told I have a face that looks very mean, standoffish.
It's serious.
Serious, okay.
It's like a serious face.
I go with that.
But I don't know, y'all. He was in here jamming to some Maxwell.
That's the good stuff. Soul music.
Well, any other thing you would like to let us know, or I don't know, leave us with some words of wisdom, something before we end today?
I just want to talk about, I guess why I got into this. When I initially got into police work, it was to help people. That was my draw. That was the platform I stood on. But as I've grown in years here, I feel like it's shifted to where what's important is to let people, is to break down stereotypes, to let people know that police officers are people, that we're not bad people.
Yeah.
We're just people. And we have experiences just like everybody else has experiences. But also to let people know that I'm actually a good guy. I smile, I laugh, I do all these things. And a lot of times people are shocked when they see me and then they hear me talk or say something nice and they're like, oh, okay, well, that's, I want to come across that way.
Yeah.
And I think that having this position and being able to be around people exposes them to that.
For sure. Humanizing officers. Yes. Police lives matter. And on that note, we are finished. It was a joy. Thanks for your time.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
We'll have to do a part 2.
Okay, I'm good with that.
Yes. Bye, everybody.
Bye.